Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan. And as I like to say, Adam, if you blink, you might have missed it. OTAs for the Eagles have come and gone. It was, look, it was obviously different because at least they had something this year as opposed to last year, but it was still kind of very quick. We talked about the revised and renegotiated sessions, and they certainly were different than we've seen normally, but interesting nonetheless. So we'll wrap that up. We will get into our defensive linemen as we continue our positional preview. And of course, the Julio Jones saga is finally over, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But didn't it seem to you that the OTAs, I thought the Zoom sessions were good. We did get more information. Nick Sirianni's last two I thought were pretty interesting, but it felt like it came and went so quickly.
It did. I mean, they only had 2+ weeks. So he traded, I don't know how many practices they had for, instead of having a mandatory camp for 3 days, they got a couple weeks plus of work with no 7-on-7, no 11-11, but they got on-field time. They got something out of it. These coaches they needed this. They had to have it because they don't know these players. They've never been with them. Like, I could see Doug Peterson maybe, or veteran coaches who are returning. If you had a staff that wasn't fired and they were staying, right? Okay, you know what? Maybe you could live with the 3 days. Not this staff. No way, no how. This is a good job by Sirianni and the players to get this agreement.
Yeah, I still wonder what kind of impact this will have on the year because it's of all the newness, the new coaching staff, new players, a lot of guys.
It's impossible to quantify.
It is. It's really impossible.
Yeah, no way to know.
Because as much as I agree that it was a good thing that they were able to get these 2.5 weeks in, it's so much less than what they would ordinarily have that it still is. There's a lot of gap to bridge by the time they report for training camp, as far as just having those 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, getting in that kind of shape and everything. We'll talk about what went on, but for such a young team, not that there aren't veterans, but for young guys in critical roles, it's still hard to think that they're not behind the eight ball compared to a rookie from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and beyond.
Right, but again, they're in the same situation every other team is.
Definitely.
Most had a revised. Not every team. Most did a revised schedule.
Right. Right, but not every team's got a first-year coach or a first-year.
Right. No, I understand, right? But you'll take like Sirianni said. Look, they got what they got. It's way better than zero. You're trying to get to know these players because I've talked to so many coaches. Let's call it like it is. These Zoom meetings are a joke. Mm-hmm. You're seeing them on camera. That's what it is, but you're not seeing them on the field. Even though it's not teamwork, they're only doing individual drills. You're able to take a concept. You're able to, okay, here's how the route is run, but you're not doing it against an opponent. You're doing it routes on air.
Right.
Okay, you'll take that. Again, it's on field time. It's so much better. They had nothing last year. No players. They didn't have anything. Not zero. Every NFL team had zero work in the offseason. So, as Sirianni said to the media on Friday, hey, you'll take it.
Absolutely. All right. And they will be back in about 6 weeks or so. Nick Sirianni spoke about that, what he's hoping to see over that time frame before the team reports to training camp. We'll talk about that a little bit. Again, we'll continue our positional preview. We're now going into the defensive side, so we will hit linemen in this episode, talk about the ends, the tackles, and go through all the players. Real quick, well, it doesn't have to be quick, but obviously the Julio Jones saga is over. And, the one thing that doesn't surprise me, Adam, when I remember just talking to people about it when it first became kind of, out there, is that you would think Atlanta would try hardest to get a deal done with an AFC team, not an NFC team. And that obviously is what resulted. They weren't going to, I'm not saying they were going to take less, but I think that they would ideally wanted to get him out of the conference.
Yeah, and here's the problem with the trade. The Tennessee, by the way, just for the record, was the favorite all along. There was. I talked to a team that was involved in the talks on Tuesday, and they said that their information that they were getting was that Atlanta had not received anything more or less than they had 2 weeks before that. Mm-hmm. And you look at what they got. First of all, they didn't get the first round pick. We told you that was not going to happen.
Right.
So my understanding was that they did not have a first round pick. What they were hoping is that maybe they could get a first round pick and have to give up Julio Jones and maybe a late round pick. That was not happening. They took what they can get. And unfortunately, because they traded to the Titans won the division last year. They've been in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a late second round pick. That's the best they can get.
Plus, and it was a future fourth also, right? It wasn't even a fourth in 2022, correct? It's
yeah, let me
2023 fourth.
Yeah, it was Julio Jones to the Titans for a 22 second round pick and a 23 fourth round pick.
Right.
And the Titans get back Atlanta's 23 6th round pick. So look, they weren't going to get maximum value because Julio Jones is 32. He turns 33 in February. This could very well be, if he plays poorly, which probably won't happen because he's still a good player. But if he suffers through a lot of injuries, misses a lot of time, unless they restructure his contract, there's no fully guaranteed money after the season. It's all here.
Right.
There's a $2 million injury guarantee that converts to full guarantee in mid-March. You by the way, you would walk away from $2 million that's fully guaranteed. That doesn't keep you on the team.
Yeah,
this could be a 1-year situation if he doesn't play well.
Yeah, I would think so. I would almost think Arthur Smith. There's a familiarity there. Arthur Smith is now the head coach of Atlanta. He was the offensive coordinator of Tennessee, right? Yeah. And you've got Ryan Tannehill. You've got Derrick Henry making a lot of money, and now they bring in Julio Jones. I almost think that if they have, for whatever reason, a very Philadelphia Eagles 2020 like year where everything just tanks and guys get hurt, I think all 3 of those guys' fates might be up in the air, and the idea of maybe having to hit the reset button for that team may have to happen if they're not competitive this year, because these are 3 guys who are getting a little older and are all high priced guys.
Well, I would say not by contract structure, and based on the way the Tannehill's played. I mean, this has been like, never saw this coming. He was so inconsistent with Miami. Mm-hmm. They're locked in for Tannehill for at least through 22. Derrick Henry as well. Now, after 22, if Jones isn't very good, if Henry, because he's been durable, okay, this is the surprising thing with him. As big as he is, he's been incredibly durable. If you start seeing him fade, like Todd Gurley. Now, Gurley had an arthritic knee, but if he starts getting hurt, then you start scratching your head after 22. And by the way, AJ Brown, his contract is eligible to be extended after this season.
Right.
So there's certain things that could happen here. And this is a play to win move. This is, hey, we've been in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. We've got a quarterback that we really like. Ryan Tannehill has been terrific. I never saw him play. I don't think anyone thought he could play to this level, but he's finally got into his own. That was a great trade that they made it funny. They made it to be the backup for Mariota, and who knew he'd be playing. But to move this forward, this is a play to win move. But the issue is not their offense; it's their defense. Their secondary was horrendous last season.
I know it took a big hit. It dropped off the year. I think Ryan Tannehill's good. He had a great year last year. What'd they do? Who'd they lose to in the playoffs? The Bills? Is that who they lost to?
I don't remember.
I feel like he has not performed very well in the playoffs throughout his.
I don't know how much he's been in there, Tennessee. But let's put it this way: they're built to. They're still going to run the ball. That's not going to change.
They lost to Baltimore. I'm sorry, they lost to Baltimore 20-30.
Oh yeah, that was Lamar Jackson's first win. Correct. That was at Baltimore, I think.
It was. Yeah. No. It was a home game actually.
Was it? Okay.
For Tennessee. Yeah, I remember.
Was it? Oh, Baltimore won on the road. Right. But look, they're in a situation now. They're trying to play to win. John Robinson, the GM of the Titans, is super aggressive. Mm-hmm. If he sees an opportunity, he's going to get it. And they would have started Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds is a really good backup receiver. He's on a 1-year deal worth $1.75 million. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. Before we move on here, just one little note when you talk about X and Z receivers. AJ Brown is an X. So is Julio Jones. So it's going to be fascinating. And they're very similar. They're not speed guys. Right. They're leverage players. So I'm very interested to see who's going to line up, or are they going to play positional receivers? They're just going to move these guys around. Who knows? But it's kind of interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I'm just to go back to what I was saying. I'm going through Ryan Tannehill. 2 years ago is when they had a really nice year, and they beat New England in the AFC divisional round. But he was only 8 of 15 for 72 yards. They basically won that game with Derrick Henry, going wild, and then they beat Baltimore 28-12, and he was 7 of 14 for 88 yards in that game. So
we don't have to throw, because see, that's the thing though, and I think I know what you're talking about, because if you at some point, Derrick Henry is not going to be the man.
Right.
Then what? Can you win with Ryan Tannehill throwing the football?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's what you don't know. Like in the regular season, sure, he's been really good when he's had to throw the ball well.
Right.
But when he's had to do it, he's done it, except for the Cleveland game where they got blown out at home.
Right.
But look, the bottom line is their offense is going to be pretty good. They're going to be fun. They don't have anything at tight end. Anthony Firkser is their slot tight end. He's not really a inline guy.
Right.
So it's, hey, look, the Eagles were in on, you and I know this, the Eagles were in on the Julio Jones sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm.
They were not going to, as I understand it, they were never going to do a first round pick. That was never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I never got the feeling that they were willing to pay the $15.3 million, and that was part of it. Yep. But look, hey, you got to make a call. If a guy's available, you got to say.
Yeah, the Eagles announced the signings of a couple of rookies over since Friday. I think everybody but Landon Dickerson and then maybe some of the low round picks. And, when they did that, I wondered to myself if
he's the only one, by the way. I think he's the only one.
He's the only one that's unsigned. That's
sure
strange. I wonder what that is. But anyway, I wondered to myself if that officially meant that they were, out of that business anyway with Julio, because now they're spending money. They had to spend their money on the rookies anyway. I get that, but they were doing it right then and there when they didn't have an abundance of cap space and Zach Ertz is still on the roster. So it made me wonder.
It was never realistic, but I always put the chances at low. But with his general manager, Howie Roseman, you can't dismiss it, because you and I talked about this, though. If they would have gotten involved and actually gotten him,
mm-hmm.
would they confuse the public? Look, wait a minute. You said the owner said they're in a transition period, not a rebuild. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to just make the playoffs? Like what? Like the Titans clearly are trying to win the Super Bowl. This is a play to win move.
Mm-hmm.
What would have Julio Jones meant to you if as an observer of the team, if they would have gotten Jones? What are they trying to do here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it would have been sort of mixed messaging, although they are trying to improve themselves as much as possible. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been, of course, a great addition. Any team would say, if I had Julio Jones and he's healthy, it's a great addition. But, like you said, at what cost and where are you right now to be able to bring that kind of salary in? And, I wonder what was it? You said it was probably the price tag. I wonder if they also didn't want to part with 2 draft picks, So, I mean, Howie, like usually when he makes a trade for somebody, he's getting a really good deal. Like when he brought in Michael Bennett, right? Same type of player, except defensive player, a star player over the age 30. Wow. Michael Bennett. Yeah. He got him for like a 6th or a 5th round pick. And then and Marcus Johnson, the wide receiver. That's a deal. You know what I'm saying? I think he was probably love to have gotten a deal here, but a 2nd round pick is still pretty good price tag.
Correct. Yeah. So look, and he's also 32. There are only 5 receivers
mm-hmm.
under contract in the National Football League who are 33 years or older. That tells you kind of why teams are so reluctant to give a first round pick, because 31, 32, 33 wide receivers' legs, they start to go. They're mm-hmm. They lose something. And plus Jones was really beat up physically last year, but will be a Hall of Famer. One of the most interesting trades, when the Falcons made the trade with the Browns in 2011, to go up and get Julio Jones. Controversial trade, but I'll tell you what, in the end, I think they got it right with Julio.
I think they did. Yeah, great player. But I just realized, did Julio and Derrick Henry play together at Alabama? They probably did, right?
No, because he was done in 11. How could they've?
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, that's right. I forgot. Man, Alabama just churns it out. It's hard to it's hard to remember.
Their talent level. And how the hell did the Eagles not draft it? Correct me if I'm wrong here. Until this draft, right?
Uh-huh.
The only Alabama players that they drafted in the last 25 years or 20 years, it was Saran Stacy.
and who's the other? Millens, I think Freddie Millens was the other one.
Freddie Millens, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that even possible? I don't understand, man. How could you not? I mean, I think Howie Roseman learned now, before we get into the depth of the show,
right?
And he's now been exposed to Devontae Smith and Dickerson just to see how businesslike they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would hope now that, and I don't know what the circumstances were they trying to draft other Alabama players over the years? I don't remember, but I do know this. The early word that you and I have gotten
mm-hmm.
is these guys are as advertised in terms of businesslike, presence,
yep,
will to win, coachability. I mean, they got it all. So it's going to be fascinating to see in future drafts whether they keep hitting that Alabama pipeline.
Yeah, it's funny because some people reach out to us when we've made this point in the past, and we're not the only ones, but and they said, why don't you guys consider Jalen Hurts Alabama? And I say, it just doesn't work that way. You take the guy where he was drafted out of. He was drafted out of Oklahoma. Nobody says Nick Foles was drafted out of Michigan State or call him a Michigan State guy. They call him an Arizona guy. That's where, yeah, it's just when you transfer, you just lose that for whatever reason. I didn't create the rules, but when you talk about where you draft the guy, it's the school that he came out of when you drafted him.
Sure, but with Hurts, you do see
the mentality, though. Yeah, you
right.
definitely see the
mentality. No, he's serious about his ball. I mean, there's no doubt, and that's the thing. Now, I understand for years there was some criticism of Nick Saban about how tough their practices were. Some of the guys would come into the pros and be beat up physically. The corner from the first rounder for the Jets who never really made it. He was in the league for a little bit.
D. Milner,
right, correct. And that guy was the epitome of what we were just talking about. The guy came in the league already beat up in several in terms of physical the injuries and surgeries and stuff. So, but anyway, they got the Alabama players for a change.
There you go. All right. So, Adam, we did our live stream last Thursday. You can check out our question and answer show. I thought we had some really good questions in that live stream. So if you missed it, it's on our YouTube channel under the live streams. What else did I wanted to just remark on? Oh, yeah. Q&A will be out as normal this week. So they'll be out Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. So make sure you catch them. They've been killing it, not just with the analysis, but with the great stories as well. The
last one. Again, if you haven't heard it, the Quentin Michael story.
I thought you were going to say the one about Jason Avant getting his jersey sold by his dad.
I love that. That was great. That was awesome too.
Yeah, Quentin getting that phone call.
Yeah, the Quentin Michael surprising epilogue to his career. I was surprised that he went with it because I remember he debated whether he was going to talk about it, and he did. And this is, when we hooked up with those guys, we just asked, please tell stories.
Yeah.
Please tell stories. They've taken it to another level. Like I couldn't even imagine. Like most of the stories I didn't know these things, and the fans were just out of their minds. They're loving these stories.
Absolutely. All right, Adam. Well, it's no surprise that you and I love winning, which is probably why there's some frustration on our part to see the Sixers lose in game one against the Atlanta Hawks here. True. In the NBA playoffs, because they're the number one seed and they should be better than the Hawks, and we're expecting big things. It kind of made me want to be out there shooting threes. I know you the same, but we have long retired from the basketball court, the football field. You play a little tennis. I try to golf every once in a while and play basketball, but basically retired, shut it down. The body doesn't work the same way. But we're still winning because we use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. Is that too good to be true? You bet it is. I've seen a car go for about $900. You've seen a TV go for less than $2. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for the things you want and get on Deal Dash right now. Go to dealdash.com or download the app. And when you register, enter that promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. That's right. Dealdash.com. Download the app, register, use promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. You got to do it. All right, let's head into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. We'll talk a little bit about something we addressed in the live stream, but really haven't addressed in a podcast since, and that's the Zoom conferences from Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata. And I feel like, most Eagles fans and media too, like we've got nothing really to watch concrete in OTAs. Reporters are done after 10 minutes. So we kind of lean heavier on these press conferences and what guys say, Adam, and not just what they say, but how they say it. And when you listen to Andre Dillard talk about his career now entering year 3 after a rookie year and then an injured sophomore year, questions about his mentality, questions about his toughness, questions about his coachability. And then you get to hear him for about 20 minutes in a Zoom conference. You can't help but think that it upstairs, at least, it's registered. Now, how that parlays to the field, I don't know, but he is certainly aware of the things that have made him not a great player, and not, and also getting hurt doesn't help, but he's aware of why he has not been successful yet. And he at least seems mentally ready to change that perception. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty introspective. You just don't go, when you go into these things, you just don't know what you're going to get from players. And for whatever reason, he really opened up. And I could tell, the little I know about him, he sure sounds like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Now, we'll see what happens when he competes against Mailata for the left tackle job. And Mailata also spoke. We'll get to that in a second. But it was good. It was good to hear that. Because you don't see the California players, the West Coast players, they get a bad knock. Ertz had the same knock. Are these guys soft?
Yeah.
Of course, Zach is not soft, but JJ Arthega got it. JJ Arthega-Whiteside got it. I've heard this from scouts
Nelson,
for years.
Aguilar.
Nelson Aguilar. Right. These USC players, Stanford, Washington, wherever they went to school. And it's not fair, but it's out there in the scouting community. I've heard it from multiple scouts over the years. Sometimes they aren't the strongest guys in the world. And I think it's a generality. I don't think it's really true, but it's out there. So you just don't know with Dillard, What we've talked about is you need to get stronger, and he's put on weight. He actually did last year. And then Mailata's a Hulk. I mean, he's a monster. So he's huge. So it's going to be, as you said in the last show, it's one of the few starting job competition that's open. Now, there are a ton of backup job competitions open. And this is one that's going to be certainly bright and center when we get to training camp. And remember, the Eagles get to report a week early because they're a new staff,
right?
Somewhere around the 15th or 17th, when the injured players, guys come back from injury, and the quarterbacks come in. And then right when the veterans come in and when camp starts, right at the end of July there, it's on. That competition is going to be on.
It's a heavyweight battle. That's how I like to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally and figuratively, because they're both massive human beings. And they both, that's what I took from Jordan Mailata's Zoom too, is that he doesn't just assume that the job is his because he played it last year. I mean, first of all, he said he almost had a heart attack when he heard Jeff Stoutland was going to leave. Right.
But, that was funny when he said that. Yeah.
And, he made a mention of the fact that he gave up 6 sacks, which I think is a PFF stat. I mean, I guess he either read it or it's true, but it's not like he kind of thinks he's a finished product either, or that he has this thing wrapped up. So I think both of them said that they were taking turns on the first team at left tackle. Now, when you're not doing 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, I don't even know what that means.
Exactly.
It's literally like when you're lining up and just doing kind of a walkthrough process, you take turns playing left tackle. So to me, that's like nothing. But yeah. So hey, look, we know it. The pads will come out. The competition will heat up in camp. But I'll raise my hand. I'll be the sucker if I have to be. I feel like this should be a more interesting competition now, having heard Andre Dillard say that and acknowledge. Because I do sometimes think the first step for a guy, especially who, like you said, is either new to Philly or from the West Coast or, built differently, to kind of like mentally get used to what it's like before you can fit. You almost have to crawl before you walk, right?
Sure.
So I thought for him, he had to at least embrace the idea that there was a lot of improvements he didn't need to make, both like physically to be ready for this job. And I feel like he's made that connection.
And the other part before we move on here, which and it's tied into Mailata, is that because Dillard now is competition, he knows that Mailata opens some eyes. This is not yes, Mailata is still sort of a project, but the project has gone forward. Mailata's improved much quicker or faster than the Eagles probably expected.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know because he had the back issues. He learned how to put a helmet on in 2018 in the spring. Nobody expected anything from this. He was a project that maybe he could be a backup left tackle if it worked out by the end of his rookie contract. Well, we're in the final year of his rookie contract, and he's clearly the favorite. Doesn't mean he's going to win it. It doesn't mean that Dillard can't take the job.
Right.
But it no longer matters that Dillard's a first round pick. It absolutely has zero to do with what's going to happen here. It's about competition. These two guys versus each other, and let the best man win.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the best thing obviously is if both guys are great, because make the decision difficult because both guys are great. Yep. And then you've got all sorts of possibilities there.
That's the best possibility. Boy, if you're Jeff Stoutland, Howie Roseman, Andy Waddle, let's say Dillard starts looking like a first round pick, right? You're right. In preseason 2 for whatever they play, where it's so tough. Man, that would be great. That'd be like pie in the sky, and it might happen. Look, we don't know. I mean,
sure.
Dillard hasn't played football in how long? He hasn't played in a game since 19.
Yeah. Hey, man, you hope that Dillard's so great that Howie doesn't even think twice. I'm not trading this guy, even if he's not starting. Hey, look, we're deeper, we're better. We have him off the bench. I'm not going to take some third or fourth round pick, or just to get him off the team. No, for value. So, I want to get into Nick Sirianni's press conference. Another good press conference where does it feel to you like Nick is more forthcoming than even Doug or Chip? Like he's willing to talk about things that he knows that he can talk about. We've already talked about how he sometimes can over-explain, but he doesn't seem to shy away from good, tough questions.
So he was put in a tough position, the Wentz stuff, when he, I don't know, with his, maybe it was his second press conference. He had the introductory one, right, in January.
Yeah.
Then maybe he had something in the spring or something in March. I don't remember. But I just know how uncomfortable he was because he shouldn't have been the one answering these questions. The general manager should have taken all that stuff off of his hands.
Right.
He's put in a tough position, and he kind of stumbled through it, and people are accusing him of not being truthful. It's like, what the hell do you want the guy to say? He's not the general manager. He has no idea what's going to happen.
I remember we ripped the organization for having him have to answer. You got to have your head guy out there, Howie in that case. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So as we move this forward here, now we're in June. Look, I think you're right. He's more comfortable. He's more forthcoming. He's pretty open, and he gives you what I always wanted from coaches head coaches specifically. Give me what you're thinking. I'm not asking what the game plan is. Just if we ask you a question, give us the thoughts behind it. Now, Belichick is difficult, but when you ask about the other team, it's like a soliloquy.
Oh my God, yeah, he goes on
a filibuster. At the combine. He went on, like he loves to talk about special teams because that's his first job with special teams coaching for the Giants. Mike Mayock's talked about he was Mayock's special teams coach for the Giants. But this guy, he actually now we'll see that this is the problem with these he sounds great now. Wait till he loses his first game.
That's what we always say, right?
Yeah.
Belichick is just hysterical, man. He could have like a player just like die on the field right then and there. And you ask him about it in the press conference and he'll be like, I'm waiting for more information. But then,
exactly.
If you ask him about like the advent of the forward pass, he'll be like, oh, well, I'm glad you asked. And then go on for like 4 hours about it. So
that's
it's basically him. He's very
a little bit of an extreme. Yeah. We don't want him dying on the field, but
no. I'm just saying like if that scenario were to happen. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, but look, the accountability thing to me, and we can talk about that. What I've heard behind the scenes is he's about competition and accountability, and he means it. Where I think this is a real issue for Doug Peterson is holding players accountable. He didn't find anyone really to the second year. Guys, why Doug struggled his first year is because he wasn't holding players accountable, and he wasn't coaching his coaches hard enough.
Right.
So you and I have talked about since 18, and this guy, he's in your face. I really believe he's going to hold his coaches accountable. And he clearly is going to hold the players accountable, but he says it. Now he's got to do it.
Absolutely. I was looking for something in the press conference that I thought would be like really, stand out and relevant. Different people took different things from it. One thing I took from it, Adam, and I wrote about it on InsideTheBirds.com, was he kind of gave a little bit of insight into how his training camp is going to look. Year one.
Yeah.
Right. Two things stand out. One, he said that there would be tackling to the ground probably. He said when we're able to have the pads on, we're going to have the pads on because that's how football is played. And that's when you can tell a lot. So, they're allowed a certain number of padded practice. So he's definitely going to have the padded practice. Now, as far as tackling to the ground, he said, I'm sure there will be a period here and there where we're going live to the ground. That's still to be determined. What I guess he means is how many of those sessions, because he said there's going to be a period here and there.
Right. Right.
So that's cool. I mean, it's not like I think I'm long past the point where I think things are going to be like Andy Reid's way where they're going to be barbaric. They're just not like that anymore. they're not bloodbaths.
What's funny you say that because Andy's hitting periods might be 5 minutes, 7 minutes. That is like, oh my God, you can't do that today. You could do a goal line drill, but you can't hit. You
have the NFLPA knocking down your door,
right?
Trying to come and drag you out of your bed if you try to do that,
right? And John Harbaugh with his crazy 3-hour practices and these hitting periods, they're one of the teams that might do it. But now we have the thud period, which is you don't technically take the guy to the ground, but you hit him. You might give him an elbow, a shoulder, but you're physical through the line. You might push him, but you don't take him to the ground. That a lot of teams do that.
Yeah, man. Look, listen, I'm adaptable. I'm not one of those guys who, I wish it was like the old way, and I don't understand. I understand why it's different now. I understand, but I love as a casual observer.
I know
when you were up at Lehigh and you were on the sidelines 10 feet away, and Doc comes over and nails somebody like a wide receiver. I mean, the sound. It's just so different. It's so visceral. So right. It's amazing. I mean, now the funny thing is, as you mentioned, Andy would do live, like, it would start that first like Monday or whatever. And then he would do Tuesday and Wednesday. By Thursday, these guys were like going in slow motion. They were so sore, right? I mean, think about it. You play a game on a Sunday, you get Monday off usually, you get Tuesday off. You don't come back for practice till Wednesday. You're not in pads on Wednesday. Sometimes you are, but like, that's what the NFL week is normally like. In training camp, you're like, pads Monday hitting, pads Tuesday hitting, I mean, they were looking at Andy like, dude, what are you doing?
but look, he with all the success he had, for several years, you can't blame him. But now you look at it, and I know the players, I know you're alluding to this, the players don't want it.
Right.
And that was the give back. The owners loved it. They're all about money. They don't care. Hey, the players don't want to practice.
Sure.
They don't want hitting. Okay. Yeah. The thing about the practices in Lehigh, I would, you get the Eagles PR email, right? And they'd say, okay, blah, 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 blah. First day in pads.
Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah. Because I knew the first day in pads, the Eagles were going to hit on Andy Reid.
Right.
Now, I don't even care. I just assume teams aren't going to hit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That when they're in pads, I'm assuming no more than thud. Right. And all I'm going to see is 11-11, 7-on-7 in uniform. Okay, great. I get to see that, but the days of hitting, forget it.
I remember Chip Kelly did the Oklahoma drill every once in a while in his training camp. Just every once in a while, and it'd be like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Like guys are actually attacking each other. That. Yeah, okay. Either that or it was like a modified version of it. But
they outlawed it. They outlawed it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. A modified version. I mean, yeah. It would basically like you watch it and you knew that's what kind of the Oklahoma drill was all about.
I don't miss the Chip Kelly practices. I did stupid music, the techno music. Oh, I hated it. But the funny thing is, though, they go from like AC/DC to classic rock, maybe.
Yeah. Then you hear like Snoop.
Right. Well, I'm fine with that. But then they go to techno. I'm like, why techno? And then the people would say that they do some study. This kind of music gets them going. I'm like,
I remember that, and I remember reading stories about it, like the real upbeat boom, 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 boom. Like
exactly.
Right. It does. It's crazy. It did. It felt like rave, like the club rave at NovaCare or something like that.
I'm
waiting for everybody to just start busting out into some neon light dancing and stuff.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Sirianni's going to have music. We'll find out.
I thought I think they do have music. They had music at OTAs. On the speaker, so they did have that. Cool. I don't think it was techno though, so I'm not. Well, I mean, we're not there for everything. So,
yeah.
All right. So another interesting thing he talked about. Good question by Ruben Frank about what Nick wants from his team in these next 6 to 7 weeks, so that when they come back to training camp, they're ready to go. Right. And he kind of took that as an opportunity to continuously hammer home the whole core value of competition and having good habits. I thought it was really, and being accountable, as you mentioned, accountability is big with him. And I think he was trying to deliver the message, go be yourselves, but stay out of trouble and don't, do something to keep yourself engaged over the 6 weeks. That's going to help the competitor within,
Correct. So, historically for several years, with very few exceptions, the Eagles players away from team and away from training camp over the years, they haven't really gotten in much trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're a new head coach, you got to just put it out there, make sure you do what you're supposed to be doing. And he talked about that in his press conference.
Right.
And the big thing is, because they are getting younger, because Jason Peters was on the team last year, if you took their average age, as far as your roster, they were one of the oldest rosters. Now you take Peters off and a couple other older players, now they're right in the middle.
All right.
So look, they are getting younger, and this is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys, as you said, they've got a lot of guys competing for jobs here. don't screw it up. Just do what you're supposed to do. And he wants them to take care of themselves. Like, just do what you're supposed to do, and don't get out of shape for 5 weeks. The funny thing is, when you and I first started covering the league, man, guys would come in fat and overweight. Like, some guys would get heavy in the off season because you could just training camp would be like 6 weeks, 5 weeks. Now it's 2.5, 3 weeks. You can't just wait till training camp to get in shape. You can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore. That's funny. Was it last year that Dallas Goedert got sucker punched in the bar, or was that? I can't even remember anymore.
That sounds correct.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other noteworthy thing. Is it a couple of years ago that Nigel Bradham knocked out some Cabana guy in
Cabana
Miami?
Boy, yeah.
Guys just got to be careful, man. Just
that. They've been very lucky though. Overall, the Eagles have not had a lot off the field issues.
True. That's true.
You know, charged with this issue,
right?
You know, failing drug tests and all that stuff. They've really been, so you got to give their personnel staff credit for that. That means that they're doing a good job of background checking and their sources,
right,
with schools and stuff. That's actually a really good sign.
That reminds me. Here's a great. Well, it's not a story. People may remember it, but it's that during the Chip Kelly era. At one point, Jason Peters got. I don't think he might have gotten arrested, or he got charged or pulled over something for drag racing in Houston.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
And after all was said and done, the charge got knocked down to a speeding violation, right?
Okay.
And I remember Chip being asked by I think it was a TV reporter during a summer press conference, like the first one. Do you have any plans to discipline Jason Peters for his involvement in off-field, incident during the time off? And Chip goes, for what? A speeding ticket?
No, people look. Chip had his issues. He was funny, man. I will never forget when he taught. He loves 80s movies. It's just, don't ask me why, but he loves 80s movies. When Romo was questionable one week, he goes, "We're not going to fall for the banana and the tailpipe."
Tailpipe, yes, yeah, the
from,
48
Beverly Hills
Cop. Oh no, Beverly Hills Cop reference, right? Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, "That's so Chip." He's very.
But when he said for a speeding ticket,
I don't even remember that. Chair.
I couldn't believe somebody would even ask it. It's not like Jason Peters was, beat up somebody in a bar or went to jail. Right. It was drag.
Oh God, I wish I would have loved to. You're gonna make me go research this thing when we're done here. I want to see what he. I want the video of him saying that. I actually would love to hear him say that.
It was the best reaction ever. For what? A speeding ticket? I
could just see him saying it like that because that's the way he is.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, did you like Chip, by the way?
I didn't really feel either way. I thought he was always nice and decent to me, and I thought it was a little mercurial, like 100%. Strange, hard to figure out. Yep. I tried my best to be just an objective reporter, and analyze the guy. I mean, it's different. He was only around for 3 years, right? I mean, Andy, I got to know over a much longer time.
Yeah,
and
sure.
To be fair, Andy was more accessible as his tenure gone on. So if you wanted a one-on-one with Andy, I got one every year in training camp. He would ask me some things about me. I would ask him about him. Got to know him a little bit. Chip never did the one-on-one thing. Like, he was against that, and that's fine because that was his rule equally for every. Like, nobody else got one either. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So
right.
I never held that against him. That as long as it was equal.
He was a very unique person. I want to save. This will be on one of these days. We're going to do a show where we do a lot of stuff that's not so Eagles related, but some of the stuff that you and I have dealt with in our careers with the football team and some of our storytelling. My stuff with Chip is hilarious because it just goes to show you, as you said, mercurial. You could not have used a better adjective for him. That's exactly what he was, because you never knew how he would react. I'm going to save my story with him because it's just so typical of me sweating bullets with a guy.
Yeah.
I thought I was in trouble and I wasn't. It's something I did, something I reported.
I don't think Chip cared about that stuff.
No, but
okay.
I finally gave and I ripped him because there was some stuff I knew what was going on behind the scenes. I was very fed up with his nonsense of not telling the truth. Because he started in 2015. There was some stuff, as you know, things are coming apart at the seams. There's a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to save it because it's so typical of him. You never know where he's coming from.
Right. Never. Yeah. With the truth telling, I mean, my favorite thing is the year after press conference, and somebody asks him about his relationship with Howie Roseman, and he says it's great. And everybody who's sitting there who knew it wasn't great at the time was just looking at each other like, "Are you serious, dude?" I mean, I know you're not going to come out and say it's terrible, but I mean,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're exactly right. And before we move on, the Marcus Smith reaction when he got it, I was there that day. And if I knew the guy, if he worked for me, I would have yelled at him. I don't raise my voice. I'm typically like this. I might elevate it a little bit. When he said, I didn't draft him, Marcus Smith.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, first of all, you don't say that. You never say that. You go, hey, he's an Eagle and we're going to coach him up. Right. You know what?
No, he was not taking it. He was not big into the accountability of him.
Oh my! I couldn't. I'm like, dude, you're a bleeping NFL head coach. What are you doing?
Right. Right. And he did that too after a couple of losses where the plays are fine and we just have to execute them. I'm like, I'm about to have him Chip.
Yeah, he's because that Evan Mathis, his big thing was Chip never had act two, never could figure it out. It was never the player's fault. It was never his fault. He never adjusted.
Right. Anyway. Right. All right, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code ITB when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. That's promo code ITB to turn $1 into $100 in free credits when you download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Last thing on the Sirianni thing I wanted to talk about, Adam, is that, people are kind of having mixed emotions or reactions about the whether it was rock, paper, scissors, right? But he did a lot of these things throughout camp, like different games. And he was talking about playing ping pong and the green ball thing. I don't know if you saw the video of doing that. And there was a defensive back drill, racing each other drill. And look, the guy is true to form. Like, he believes these things foster competition among people. And if you're playing ping pong, and he said he was late to the press conference because he lost a 3-point shooting contest to Greg Ward, like, that's his thing. And again, it matters if you're winning and losing on Sundays and during the regular season. But I do find it interesting. This guy's had a lot of opportunities to kind of crack under the public saying this and that about him, and he's just still doing his thing.
You should. I mean, now what it also helps you do is connect to your players, because, as you know, a lot of head coaches will have a bowling outing. Sometimes during let's say they have a West Coast trip and they go out early, then they might bowl or something, whatever it is to connect with players.
Yes.
There's a way to connect. There's no way to quantify how much is going to matter, these alternatives to having a real practice, because you can't with the rules. But it's being creative. And I'm hoping the one thing I could take out of this before we get into our defensive line preview, which is going to be fun. I hope we've now learned, stop judging. You can evaluate a coach on press conference. Don't start saying this guy can't coach, or he's going to be a great coach because he's very good at explaining himself. Okay. What I like is, just from a reporter standpoint or an observer, he's willing to give in-depth answers. That's great, but that doesn't mean they'll ever win a game with him.
Exactly. Right.
Let's be careful.
Right. Come on, man. You're taking away like 4 days of material from the sports talk stations. I mean, that was like literally 4 days of his first 2 press conferences. So.
Oh my God. It was unbelievable. And I don't know this guy. I mean, I met him. I've talked to him before at Colts camp, but I don't know the guy. I felt so bad for him. Like, this is not the way to get start in Philly here but not that he controls it.
Right.
But look, he's what I'm hoping is that I'm sure it won't happen, because I can't believe he's going to be this upfront once the season starts. Which he get after the first couple losses. There'll be some losses this season.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how he handles it. But I'm glad that he's gotten off to a good start.
All right, let's go into the defensive line. We're going to first start with defensive ends. This is a really diverse set of pass rushers, edge rushers that the Eagles have put together, more so than in the past. Familiar name, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, of course. Josh Sweat, who had an interesting Zoom there. He found every question asked to be hysterical, and I'm not sure why, but he would just crack up at all the questions. So Graham, Barnett, Josh Sweat, right? They bring in Ryan Kerrigan, who's we'll call him OLB/DE. He's going to be an edge guy. He's going to play multiple positions. The rookie 6th rounder, Teron Jackson, and then a couple of you got the rookie free agent Jaquan Bailey, and then Matt Leo, who's got the international exemption. So a lot of now they still. Oh no, I forgot. Thank you. You didn't even say anything, but I felt like this, nonverbal communication where I was about to say we forgot Joe Osman, but no, he is a linebacker now. So,
Correct.
but is he a linebacker the way Ryan Kerrigan's a linebacker?
I guess.
And Jannard Avery is a linebacker.
Sure. My understanding was we put this out, I don't know, 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Our understanding was that Osman was moving to linebacker, and this is before they signed Kerrigan, though.
Right.
So because they're not having 11-11 and 7-on-7, we really don't know 100% for sure where Osman's going to line up.
Right.
My understanding was because they like him as a joker. They like him to be able to stand up. We're talking about Osman here.
Yes.
Now they have Kerrigan because he stood up most of his career, which I didn't know until I asked a couple teams for free agency. I always thought he was a DN that later would play linebacker. It's the exact opposite. He's been like 75%, 80% of his career has been a stand-up linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
But look, they're not super deep at DN. Boy, they really needed Kerrigan though. That is not only their fourth end, but to give him experience because
definitely.
And plus, if somebody gets hurt, Josh Sweat, as we've said from day one, cannot play. He cannot play full snaps. He can't play 50 snaps a game. That's not going to work.
Right.
If Barnett or Graham were to suffer an injury.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Kerrigan here. What a great signing. And by the way, I finally looked at this email I was sent about 3 weeks ago, which has his breakdown. I'm really surprised he signed here with this contract. Boy, he got a light deal. Only $2.5 million fully guaranteed. Upside of $3.5 million. So he'll make a minimum of $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised he didn't wait till like July or August. I kind of think he could have got a better deal on this. I'm not him.
Right.
I do wonder. Obviously, it's going to be more than a fourth end. That's it's the way we called it when he signed here. Why do I have this feeling he's going to have a bigger role than we imagined?
Well, with the injuries and the aging, obviously on the whole defensive line, Brandon Graham's getting up there, Fletcher Cox getting up there, so you can see there being a role. I wonder if he or someone else. Well, we know Brandon can do it. I wonder if this coaching staff wants to get defensive ends in the middle. In
Double A gap, yeah.
So just to kind of just to have your best pass rushers in the middle. However, when you have Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, those two guys are good pass rushers as well. So they have a whole plethora of options. How it all unfolds is going to be fascinating. But I would tend to agree with you that the injuries this team has had in the lines, especially for the last few years, make me think that Ryan Kerrigan's probably going to see more time than we expect right now. And it might wind up being a really good value. It's already a good value signing, as you mentioned. Could wind up being even more so by the end of the year.
So yeah, and by the way, he's got 4 voidable years on his contract.
Of course, everybody has.
I remember you said that you guessed, and you're 100% right. You're like, I'm sure he's got voidable years on it on a 1-year deal. Wouldn't you know it? He does.
It's amazing.
Look, it's funny. The Bucs never did these kind of deals.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing them to run it back. The Bucs they haven't done it ever, and they're doing it this year because they're running it back, and they did a bunch of these type deals with.
How many? I thought they only did like 1 or 2. They did one with Brady, right, and maybe Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, Shaq. Yeah, they did a bunch of them actually.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just 2. I didn't realize
it was the kid. That kid. He's actually a really good player. The linebacker.
Look, Levante David.
Yes.
Okay.
Back. Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Well,
all right. So Brandon Graham's got he's signed through 2022, right?
Right. So he's got 4 voidables. See, here's the thing to move this forward here before we get to D-tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the way I see it. Now you're saying if they're hurt. Now, if everybody stays healthy, right? Graham and Barnett are your starters. Sweat's the third end. Kerrigan's the fourth. Now, we have to find out where Kerrigan's lining up. Who's he lining up behind? And, who's he in terms of DN? Now, as a technically stand-up guy's an outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated to see, does he only do that nickel? Does he ever play in base at all? We don't know. Because again,
that's a good point. That's
don't
a good
know.
point. I have a hard time believing he would be a base. Well, it depends. You can play base in a pass rushing down now and have him as your Sam and going right at the quarterback.
I was going to say Sam. Right. You can do that now because they're going to run their version of Zimmer's defense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, theoretically, in nickel, you're going to use him as a stand-up linebacker. if Graham and Sweat are in, or Graham and Barnett are in, and you could use him as a stand-up linebacker, then use him as that blitzer up the A gap. There's so much you can do with Kerrigan. A, B, because of this front, as you put out in our show months ago, is going to be moved around a little bit. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and even Gannon did admit that it's post snap that he wants. Was it he said post snap, right?
Pre-snap.
Or pre-snap, I'm sorry, pre-snap.
Pre-snap motion, right? Yeah.
Right. He's going to have movement, which we really didn't see with Schwartz. So this is going to be a more fun defense to watch, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I apologize. You could be right about the post-snap, because that is something that we saw a lot of Harrison Smith do with the Vikings last year, where he's in the box and it looks like there's a cover one, like a one-shell defense. And then right after the snap, he's running right back like 20 yards, and only – few have that kind of great athleticism to do that, but it winds up being a two deep coverage. Just didn't look like that when the ball was snapped.
He's always done it. And the reason why you do it is you want the quarterback to think. You want him to hesitate. Schwartz did not believe in it. Now, Schwartz also, I believe, because some people told me this who would know, who work in the National Football League, they think based on tape study, Schwartz clearly did not trust that young secondary, all these deep end backup guys who had to play because of injury the last couple of years. And I get that. But the fact of the matter is, this is going to be a different defense. You're not even going to recognize the way that they're being used. If everybody's healthy, this is going to be a fun defense to watch.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by the rookie, Teron Jackson. Want to see how he does from Coastal Carolina, I believe, right?
Correct.
And I think he's the one that Greg Cosell said to us that he kind of liked him more as a run-stopping nickel defender, like an interior run stopper.
Really? He's not that big.
Rusher. I'm pretty sure that's what Greg Cosell told us one day.
Okay, I'm just saying he
was recapping.
Yeah, he's actually 6'2" and 250 plus. So that okay,
right. That's why I think he said more in nickel. But I the whole run-stopping thing was weird to me, because usually you're in pass rush mode in nickel. So I'll go back and listen to what Greg said to have clarity on that, but and why he said that. But he definitely thought differently than maybe other people who looked at Teron Jackson thought of him. Okay. And Greg even admitted he could be way off. It's just kind of what he saw.
All right. But the good thing is they've got Sweat, who could play in nickel inside. He's done it before. He's played in base before.
Right.
Graham is a guy who's played in nickel inside. He can do that again. Kerrigan could stand up or play with his hand down. So the great thing is they've got versatility to this line. If everybody stays healthy, and nickel, you could do a whole bunch of things here with this D line, particularly at the end positions.
Now, if Barnett stays healthy and has a really productive start to the year, let's say he's got like something like 6 or 7 sacks by November, could you see him getting that? Because you can extend guys, right? Don't they have the rule where you can still give a guy an extension by a certain week, and then the money counts on this year's books and not next year's, or something, something strange like that, right?
Yes, it's late December, yes.
Right, because that means you can give a guy upfront money with the new deal, but it would still go in this year's contract, so that in future years the cap hit isn't as high. So
right, you could structure to take. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think they did that with Alshon when they signed him to a 1-year deal, right? And then in the middle of the year, didn't they give him his extension?
In November, I think they did. Yeah. But yeah, you could structure to take the cap hit, a lot of it this year if you want to.
Right.
We'll in about a day or so, we're gonna have the updated cap numbers for the Eagles. I've efforted to get it, and I've been promised I'll have them. So
good.
We'll talk about that. We just talked about the Kerrigan contract. So here's another question before we move to defensive tackle, though. So Graham is an older player. He's signed through 22, right? Barnett's on his 5th-year option. Sweat's on his final season. Kerrigan's on a 1-year deal. By next season, now I'm sure some of these guys will be back, but Kerrigan theoretically could not be back, and same for Barnett. And Graham's an older player, and Sweat, can't play a ton of snaps. So there's some question past the season what this DN group is going to look like.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, and Derek Barnett is such a huge wild card. I mean, if he has a really good season, like I mentioned, and he can get an extension, at least you'd feel somewhat confident with him at one end. But I agree with you. That is Brandon Graham going to be back again in 2022? He signed through 2022, but you don't know if he'll be back. and healthy and still Brandon Graham. I mean, obviously it's a position they draft a lot. You would have to think next year, first round with many of those picks. They would have to be eyeing defensive end along with cornerback. So no, you're right. Like you can't look at this group right now and definitively talk about the future of the defensive ends. Certainly not.
Yeah.
It's too up in the air.
So I think there's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Because good teams and the Eagles have done this historically, particularly at D end and offensive line. They always seem to draft early and have depth and have guys in the pipeline, so to speak, to take over for the older guys.
Right.
And this is why historically they've been better than bad. Because Banner and Jeffrey Lurie, as they learned over the years of the 90s and the 2000s, you starts with the lines. Howie Roseman believes the same thing.
Right.
Dirk Douglas believed the same thing. And this is the way you build your football team.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that came from Andy. I mean, I think he helped them kind of see the light on that. Don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because they did it in Green Bay. But look, it's still going on. And that, despite the misses they've had in the draft, in 18 and or that's not so much 18, 19 for sure. 20 is dubious, a little shaky. We'll see. 17 was horrendous. The one thing that's constant, though, because they've had such good lines, they're still very competitive. 16, despite the 7-9 record, they were still competitive.
Yeah. Yes, they were. All right. Let's take a real quick break to tell you about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with all of their coverage of our great Philadelphia sports teams. Go check them out. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. They are at PHLSportsNation.com. You can find them on Twitter at PHLSportsNation is the handle. And we'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you happen to drop by Sky Motor Cars or give them a phone call or hit them up on skymotorcars.com, make sure you let them know Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a fantastic deal. All right, let's talk about the interior defensive line. This is a very, very, to me, it's still a very strong spot for the Eagles, Adam. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, both of them, interestingly, right? They're both signed through 2022, correct?
Correct. So
with voidable years, of course.
Yeah, of course. Cox is signed through 22, 23, and 24 void. Hargrave is signed through 22. He's got 3 voidables, 23, 24, 25 void.
Right.
Yeah. Now, as for starters, Cox and Hargrave are terrific, and Hargrave will do well in this scheme, from what we understand. This will fit him. But the problem that they have is they have no one proven in back of these guys. No one's done anything. Ridgeway, limited times, looked okay. Milton Williams is a rookie,
right,
who also played DN. Tuipulotu is a rookie who I know they're excited about. T.Y. McGill is the Richard Rodgers version of their defense. They bring him back.
Yes.
Somebody, Raekwon Williams hasn't done anything yet. And Willie Henry is a failed draftee of the Ravens. So, yeah, the 2 starters are studs. But after that, it's shaky.
Yeah, it is shaky. The Willie Henry signing, we haven't really talked about that. That's like one of those sneaky, hey, that's a value signing. He's a draft pick of the Ravens. He didn't play very well, but sometimes guys need change of atmosphere, change of defense, change of whatever. I like that. You go get a guy who's played in the NFL a little bit, have him compete.
Yeah, look, he's been in the league a while. He didn't make it as a 4th-round pick of the Ravens. He bounced around with the Niners on and off their roster in terms of practice squad. Went to Houston's practice squad. Now he's with Philly. He's got ability. The guy was a 4th-round pick. So he's there. We'll see what happens. He's got an opportunity. By the way, he definitely has an opportunity to be like their 4th tackle.
Yeah,
because they have nobody who's done anything, and these guys, all of them, Ridgeway, Williams, Tuipulotu, McGill, Williams, Henry, they all have a chance.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if this scheme brings something out of him. I mean, you said he was on Houston's practice squad?
Henry. Yeah, for late last season. Yep.
I forgot because of the veteran. Can they, do we know if that's being kept?
It's not official. So 2 GMs told me that they're almost certain it's going to happen, that we're going to have the pretty close to last year's rules.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, personnel people want these to not only stay for this year, they don't understand why no one cheated. The league was concerned about teams taking advantage of the rules.
Right.
by and large, the GMs and personnel people did what they're supposed to do. They didn't try to purposely have guys be on who weren't really hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the veteran exception, the be on practice squads. Look,
I think it's a great rule.
I love it, but although I think that's the part about that probably down the line, not this year, obviously, because it's going to pass probably. It's what we've heard, but 22, 23, 24, you might not see that because it would never would have happened, other than pandemic, it never would have happened.
Right.
That's going to be the league's argument over it past this season. And plus we're not quite out of the pandemic. So it's almost certain that we're going to have these rules again. And boy, they were really applauded by personnel people. They absolutely love them.
Did we also talk about the fact that the cut down date is changed? Did we address that on the last?
No, but it's what it is because of there's no fourth preseason game.
Right.
They're going to have cut downs will not be like they normally will be. In fact, they're going back to the old rule. What are the 3 cut downs?
I think it's 3 or 4, but the final cuts are going to be made on the Tuesday before Labor Day weekend, not on Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I
love that, by the way. As someone who likes to enjoy Labor Day weekend before we get into like the meat and potatoes.
Oh, I love that Saturday show. What are you talking about? When we tape it,
people I like the show. But we can still do the same show just now on Tuesday, and then we can enjoy our weekend.
Right? I know. I'm kidding. I know.
Oh, okay.
But I always because we try to guess who's going to make it, not, and fans love that show.
Yeah,
it's some of our most traffic shows. But yeah, look okay. So they've changed the dates. They're going to have more cut downs because. I would tell you, by and large, personnel people love when they change the rule to go down just one massive cut down.
Mm-hmm.
They liked it. It just gave them because they liked that they'd have longer to evaluate players instead of having to keep cutting down.
Right.
They want more time, but hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. So of the depth here. So first of all, with D tackles, we'll end on this. I think you hope that Javon Hargrave still stays healthy as he has to learn yet another scheme in training camp and obviously the torn pec and then the hamstring that he suffered last year got him off to a slow start. I don't think he really played well until Pittsburgh, Baltimore. And by then it was that's week 6 and 7 of the season, right? That's when he really, to me, started to come on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's ready to go, and has a good training camp, and Fletcher Cox is back to having a good, and remember, Fletcher, he's a good player. It's just that sometimes he gets double teamed and triple teamed a gajillion times. Mm-hmm. If this line can actually stay healthy, and we talked about the edge rushers, also that complement, and they can get Fletcher schemed up into some one-on-ones, that's going to theoretically will do wonders for Fletcher. So again, they're high on Marlon Tuipulotu, high on Milton Williams. It's going to be nice to see these kids kind of evolve over the summer and see if they can really make it and push.
Yeah, look, Milton Williams, well, he'll make it. The question is, can he actually dress on game day?
Right.
Will he flash enough to show that he deserves to play? And then if he does, if he's active, does he have a meaningful role? Could he get 50 to 20 snaps a game? Could Tuipulotu? You had said that, just to remind everyone, right? You'd said that they were looking for a nose, right?
Yeah. Someone to play more head up, being kind of a natural run stopper, which he can do.
Sure.
He did that at USC. Yes, USC. Thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, but so did Javon Hargrave a little bit in Pittsburgh. Not a lot, but he did do that as well. So
yeah, he wasn't a natural nose. They had him like on an angle. I was told he wasn't typically nose up, but technically was he in interior tackle? Yes,
right.
Yes. Right. But it's a little different here.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing is, again, and there are plenty of there are so many backup jobs open here.
Definitely.
Gosh, it's incredible. We haven't seen this. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just what you do wonder is how good these players are. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out. Ridgeway, look, they've had him now. What is it, the 3rd year that he's been with him?
Yes.
Okay, he's going to have a shot. He got to stay
well at him when he's healthy. He just he keeps getting hurt, right?
Right. And then Milton Williams, he's going to be hybrid DN, D tackle. We'll see what he can do. And T.Y. McGill is back, but I wouldn't expect him to really contribute. But he's back.
Right.
Raekwon Williams is a guy I know they paid a lot of money to as an undrafted free agent. We'll see what he can do here. So there's a wonderful opportunity for these guys, and and plus they have to learn. The other part is, as we were talking about DN, they got to figure out who the future is at D tackle. Who's going to be the 3rd tackle of the future? Who's going to be the 4th?
Right.
Who's going to replace Fletcher Cox down the line? We don't know that.
Right. Can Milton Williams eventually be a starter with that kind of tweener-like
There you
body
go.
that he has? I don't know. We'll have to find that
They
out.
put a weight on again. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Real quick, Matt Leo's international exemption. How many years of that do you get? Just 2, right? Like this is it for him?
This is his second year. I don't know on the exemption. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder.
Giant guy. You know how old he is, by the way?
26 is it?
He's old now. Yeah, I think he's like 28 or 29.
Oh, does he? I was just wondering how legit he. I know he's not going to probably.
The giant. He's really long.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is actually 29 years old.
Wow. Interesting. The Eagles have not had a whole lot of success. I don't know if any other teams have with the international exemption and really finding
the Bills
a guy, right?
had a fullback, Christian. I cannot remember the kid. A fullback, maybe from Germany or something.
Right.
Christian Wade. Yeah. He's been on and off. Christian Wade is he's also an older player. He's 30.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on and off their practice squad, and they've taken a look at him. He is still on the roster for the offseason. He is once again back. I think this is his 3rd year. He was back there in 19. So
gotcha.
Anyway,
I know this guy is not a international exemption player because he went to college in America. He went to SMU, but I always like Margus Hunt. He's from Germany, right? Or
yes,
Estonia.
yeah. He was
Estonia.
a discus thrower.
Yeah. He's
a giant who
huge.
He had to learn really the technique of football, but what he became was a special teams guy on the block, like to put your hands up.
Yep.
That's actually kept him in the league because he's not a really good pass rusher.
Right.
But he could play end or tackle. I think he might be, I can't remember if he signed with a team this offseason, but he's blocked some kicks. So that helps him stay in the league.
There you go. All right. That will do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check him out check out his new website, broadsmedia.com. Check him out on Twitter @Broads81, @BroadsMedia. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.